would recommend going on, try to just roll with this morning. Debbie's out navigating. Might not be ideal this morning.
Oh, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure it's what it is what we think it is. Okay. So Jean, are you ready? Okay, we're good to go. Good morning, everyone. Today is
Wednesday, December 4th.
it's a busy month. Today is Wednesday, December 4th, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only, and they're offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website or to tctvonline.com. Click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All other items must remain muted all others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by noon on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by noon on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for a public comment? Thank you, Isabel. Okay, well then we will start this meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we don't have any non-agenda items today, and we can jump right in with the consent calendar, which is consideration of a new liquor license application for retail off-premises sale for Your Choice Food Mart.
So, Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the consideration of the consent calendar.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We'll move on to item 6, which is consideration of a sub-award agreement with Northwest Medical Foundation of Tillamook, doing business as Adventist Health Tillamook, for expansion of an opioid use response program. And with us, we have Melody Ayers, our Tillamook Opioid Use Response Project Director from Adventist Health Tillamook. Good morning, Melody.
Good morning. You did well getting all of that
That's a long time.
read out. And so it's my honor to be here and to present both this and the following agenda item for you. But just to give you a little background on what our Tillamook has been doing, possibly since the last time that you had an update. This fall, our Tillamook, the Opioid Use Response Tillamook Consortium, has been working very hard with strategic planning. The original strategic planning was paid for by HRSA grant in 2019 to 2020. And we've accomplished quite a bit of the items that were on that list for improving things for both our providers and our safety networks, as well as for those in our community who are struggling with opioid use and substance use disorder. And so as we looked at it earlier this year, I looked at it with Commissioner Scar, and we went, wow, a lot of this stuff is all done. And then in some other areas, a lot of this stuff, the whole environment has changed. In the meantime, Oregon has enacted House Bill 4002 that has recriminalized to a certain extent possession of controlled substances. There's been a change in the focus at the state level. They're looking now more at deflection. They're looking at trying to keep people from even getting into or getting enmeshed in the criminal justice system. We've had already diversion, which we have behavioral health court, and we have some other opportunities for folks once they're in to be able to be working on wellness goals and resilience goals. And now the opportunity through the state to work on deflection. So the Our Tillamook group said, we need to do some strategic planning. We need to update this plan. We need to figure out what we're going to continue to do because the need has not gone away. We continue to get more controlled substances that have more other things in them that make them stronger and more detrimental to the people who end up addicted to them. And so this number 6, this consideration of a subaward agreement is coming out of the deflection House Bill 4002 that Tillamook County wasn't in on the first wave of funding because our commissioners looked at it and said, what are we signing off on? They haven't even finished the paperwork on this. And so we had the opportunity, the county had the opportunity to apply for deflection planning funds. And that was submitted in July 1. And so we've been working to, there's a work group that's working on deflection planning. And it's like, what does deflection look like for Tillamook County? What can working with the DA, working with the sheriff, county sheriff, working with City of Tillamook Police, including on the calls, our police officer from North Tillamook County, whose name escapes me at this moment, but including as many of the folks, many of whom are also on the LPSC, the Local Public Safety Coordinating Council, and looking at what does deflection look like from that public safety and criminal justice side, but then not forgetting on the Our Tillamook, we got to be ready with treatment and wraparound services. What is our deflection side deflecting to, and how are we making those doors into those services as low barrier as possible? So that is your long sermon for first thing this morning about some background and context for both of these agreements that are before you for approval. And so the subaward is specifically for the deflection planning. And even though if you look in the full agreement, it says that Adventist Health is going to get like $147,000. This one only goes till June, and we only are planning to bill for the strategic planning services that we're doing to hopefully hand this off to one of our community partners who can take it the rest of the way. Adventist Health, Bridget and I know treatment and wraparound services. We do not know criminal justice. We do not know law enforcement. And so we'll be looking at what does this pathway look like for Tillamook County, and who is the community partner that we can hand that part of the lead off to, but still work closely with them. So we are only planning to bill for those services that we incur expenses for. So the whole amount, I highly doubt will be coming to Adventist Health. And so that's the behavioral health deflection. I probably should stop here and ask if there's questions and give you guys a chance to eventually vote on it before we go to the other one.
Thank you, Melody.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Adventist Health Tillamook for being willing to step into the planning role for the lead on the planning role for the deflection grant. As y'all remember, this was a very short turnaround. It was one of those where the state said, we want every county to have a deflection program. We were able to apply for planning, but it was a very short turnaround. And we did talk about it at LPSC, and everybody did the nose goes, not me, I don't want to be in charge. Yes, I want to explore this for Tillamook County. I want to know what it could look like. I want to offer these services, but everybody said, I can't lead this. I can't be the one in charge right now of this. So I was very thankful that Adventist Health through Our Tillamook was willing to step up and say, we will take the planning money, we will lead the planning process, and then whatever the community decides is the right place, the right way for this, we'll hand it off. And so the sort of expectation in this agreement is that the planning will be complete, and we're just about to do our third, and I would say most intense planning meeting, which will be really doing the work to define that pathway, right? That says if someone comes in contact with law enforcement related to possession, what happens? What are the opportunities? And again, this is really a partnership between our law enforcement and criminal justice departments and the Our Tillamook on the treatment side to figure out what's even possible. And so that, I think that will tell us a lot after that third meeting as to where ultimately the required coordinator for this program that the state has spelled out will sit. Because where will it make the most sense? And then at that time, we're able to do a budget adjustment with the state, which will allow us to transfer those funds to the right place, to the right activities to actually launch the Tillamook County Deflection Program once we know what it is. So again, I'm very thankful that you all were willing to step up and just be the conveners and leaders in this. And I will say there was an unexpected turn where Oregon provided free technical assistance through OHSU. In fact, we have 2 folks providing technical assistance. And we had originally thought we were going to have to use more of this grant to hire our own technical assistance. And in fact, it's provided for free. So it is really nice. Adventist Health is herding the cats, is convening the meetings, is making sure that we have the conversations. We're able to use the free technical assistance, which should leave us with a significant amount of money to kick off the program. So lots of good work, but I just greatly appreciate your willingness to do that part.
Thank you. I'll just add a little bit if I might. We have the county also has the Department of Justice COSIP grant. And the good news for us is that it's the same team that the federal technical assistance and the state technical assistance are actually working for the same agency and company. And so that's another one of the things that we're carefully threading the needle with and weaving those two together to say, when do we use the state resources? When do we use the federal resources? And those folks are talking to each other and we're talking to both of them. So it's even more complicated with the technical assistance than one might think.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson?
Thank you. Good morning. As I've said a number of times, I claim no real background or expertise in this particular subject, but I'm always impressed because Adventist Health appears before this commission about every third week for one thing or another. I mean, you are such a key player in this community. So I'm absolutely in support of making this happen. I will say just yesterday, I had a call from a lady I've known for quite some time here in Tillamook. Hadn't spoken with her probably for a couple of years. And she wanted to know what was available for her son, who could not return home because of his difficulties with drugs, and where could she seek some help? Beg your pardon. Where could she seek some help? And so I gave her some advice on where to call and what to do. But lest we forget that this is a pretty deep problem and it affects people that I think most of us know, sometimes relatives or distant relatives or neighbors. And if you forget that, I think you're not aware of what's going on in our community. So I appreciate what Adventist does. And the more I see how deeply Adventist reaches into this community, it's just absolutely amazing from your senior management and Eric to yourself and others on down. You're engaged. And as I said, it seems to me about every third week, Adventist is in here asking for something or acknowledging something or receiving something. And I don't know what this community would do if we didn't have you as a player. We would struggle. So I thank you for what you all do and certainly support this and this grant and keep it moving. I think we're going down a bit of an unknown with deflection, and I've sat through a few meetings and again claim no expertise, but boy, that's got to be a better option than just sticking in the slammer for a period of time. That's just not what we should do as humans, my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. I also thank you for your work on this and for your outstanding partnership. It's really, I'm really very grateful. I think you said it very well that you and Bridget are not experts in law enforcement. And yet Adventist Health has stepped up to be an excellent partner and said, let's figure this out together. And we're very grateful. So thank you. And I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a subaward agreement with Northwest Medical Foundation of Tillamook doing business as Adventist Health of Tillamook for expansion of an opioid use response program, I move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. One more. Item 7 is consideration of a reimbursement agreement with Northwest Medical Foundation of Tillamook doing business as Adventist Health Tillamook for reimbursement of expended funds supporting the opioid substance abuse disorder program.
And again, our Tillamook, this specifically is supporting the consulting services that the Our Tillamook Consortium has been making use of this fall. And we've been in a pretty deep dive, even though I appreciate your kind remarks about Adventist Health leadership, we're not doing this in a vacuum. We have quite a few community partners who've stepped up, who've come to meetings, who've put their heads together, who've started and stayed in conversation about how do we make this a better place for our community and for those who need these services. And so the consulting services are helping us to finalize. We have one meeting. Next week, I think, is the last meeting. And we're finalizing the strategic plan going forward and being able to, as a community, as a countywide consortium, work together on things that we know or can reasonably see will make a difference in our community. And so there's a total of $65,000 that has been requested through this award. And this is tapping into county opioid settlement funds. And again, even though the agreement says 65, we will not bill more than the expenses we have actually incurred on that. So far, we have 50,000 in the consulting agreement that we have expended and just a few thousand more in supplies related to that planning process. And so that is the little bit of extra information that wasn't necessarily in the legal document, and just wanted to have a chance to call out our amazing partners too.
Thank you.
So this is a perfect use of the opioid settlement funds. They have been a very interesting funding source that started to come to us a couple of years ago, but it continues to be checks that show up, somewhat unannounced, for varying amounts. So we've been trying to wrap our head around how much will be there in the long term so that we can do some significant planning. So I think the strategic planning portion of our Tillamook will help with that conversation. We have committed a portion of this to the health department for our harm reduction program, and this is the only other expenditure so far that we have committed to with these funds, again, because of their very strange payment schedule. We get somewhere between 65,000 and 10,000 a year. It just depends on the different settlements, and settlements keep happening, which is the other interesting and creative part of how we try to utilize these funds, because we started with 2 settlements and I think we're up to 6. But again, some of them are one-time payments, some of them are annual payments over a window of time. And until we can wrap our heads around it, we hesitate to do a long-term commitment. So this is a great opportunity to utilize these funds. The other thing about these funds is the settlements limit them to opioid response directly. So it has to be either the planning, which we're allowed to do, or evidence-based programming related to opioid response. So it's created a fairly narrow pathway as to what we're able to do with them. So I think, again, getting our head wrapped around what do we have, what seems to be the cadence, what exactly can we do, what is in the strategic plan for our Tillamook will guide us going forward. And I think that is absolutely a workshop for the Board of Commissioners to understand, now that we have enough history, hopefully, to understand how we would like to commit these funds, because they are county funds, although they are coming on behalf of the community, as all of our funds do. So,
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you. I too would support what has happened. Thinking back, again, I'm not have much expertise in this area. I remember reading, and I think there was a story on 60 Minutes at one time. What was the magnitude of the national settlement for opioid? You recall?
It was more zeros than I normally see in my bank account.
And it was into the billions.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I remember. And so I guess it's finally trickled down to the hands on the ground, so to speak. And so, yes, whatever can be done to take advantage of that. It's another, I guess, one of those things that goes on in our society, like it or not. And so we make the best of it. And we've got a chance to do something good here. So go for it.
Thank you. I am also in support of this. Ready for a
Okay.
motion?
Madam Chair, in consideration of a reimbursement agreement with Northwest Medical Foundation of Tillamook doing business as Adventist Health Tillamook for reimbursement of expended funds supporting the opioid substance abuse disorder program, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Melody. Thanks for being with us and thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Melanie.
Okay, item 8 is consideration of a tourism-related facilities project award from the North Coast Recreational, that's North County Recreational District Pool. Good morning, our friends from NCRD. Thank you for being back with us again.
Thank you for having us. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. As a reminder, we're here after meeting with you for 3 different board briefings. We've discussed the possibility of using TLT tourism-related facility funds for the funding of our aquatic center. We've done a lot of homework, and since this discussion is about value, I also want to recognize Adventist Health's support for the community. They did give us a gracious $500,000 grant earlier this year, which we are very, very thankful for. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of the homework we had done, I wanted to present one slide that deals with value and how to frame the value of our district in the framework of the entire county. Your amazing GIS team helped produce this graphic for us that shows NCRD's boundaries up north in yellow against the backdrop of the entire county. And from looking into the 2024-2025 summary of assessment and tax roll from your website, we were able to determine that 25.4% of the entire assessed value of the county resides within our boundaries. So we're just a significant portion of the county. We hadn't realized this, and we thought it was a very interesting data point. Getting into the nuts and bolts of the project, there was a request to add a slide to this deck to summarize the phases of the project. That's what we have here. Just as a reminder, the reason we had to phase the project was sort of a hedge against runaway inflation. We needed to, we were funded, and then after the inflation post-pandemic, it turned out some of the quotes came back so much higher, we decided to keep going. That's why we have phases. We've nearing completion of phase 2, and phase 3 is what we're up against next. What you'll see next are actual quoted costs, and we have a contract signing deadline in a couple of weeks to move forward with the project. So phase 3, we confirmed at our last board meeting, is $1.7 million. It's going to run from January through May, ballpark. And this is getting the aquatic center ready to occupy. So this finishes both pools, the plaster, the tile work, all the mechanical work complete. The building is ready to use. However, it's not quite ready for public swim yet because there's some commissioning that has to happen afterwards. And so this is in phase 4. And to be transparent, these are estimated costs. We are starting the process of getting actual quotes for what I'm about to show you, but we don't have them yet. So this is an estimate. Phase 4A, I decided to split this into two phases of 4 to make it kind of clear what's required to start swimming with the public, or to have the public swim in our pool, versus what we could defer till later. So basically, we're looking at about $200,000 of work to prepare the aquatic center for the first swim. This is the commissioning of the pools, the staff, the equipment. You want to make sure everything in that facility runs properly and that the staff know how to use it. Effectively, it's going to be working with a commissioning agent to do this. That's also someone that we could lean on for warranty, repairs, et cetera, down the road. The next half of this phase is to procure and install essential equipment that we haven't procured yet. So these are your lifeguard chairs, your lane lines for lap swimmers, all the needed things. We think that whole portion will come in about $200,000, so about $1.9 million until we're ready for the public to come swimming with us. The rest I put in gray to imply that these are things we could defer until later when we have funding. There's some other, I mean, my 6-year-old wouldn't call the water slide non-essential, but we could probably add that later. There's additional acoustic treatment, bleachers, et cetera. These are all not structural for the building, and these are things that could be added at a later date. And as such, we can defer those until later. Decommissioning of the legacy pool, there's a large number here. There's some engineering work that we've approved to scope that we have to go through to figure out how to do that. We'd like to take that pool offline as soon as possible to save the cost of keeping it open, but that can be deferrable. It's not necessarily linked directly to when we can start using the pool with the public. To summarize, completion of phases 3 and 4A are required before the public opening. If you have any questions, I'm getting the vibe this is a questions after the presentation sort of thing. Okay. So financing update, this was the majority of the work that we did, but we left last time, based on a great suggestion from Commissioner Olson to look at the idea of maybe an upfront allocation, cash allocation, and then some annual allocations to help us with a loan. We said, well, let's go dig into the details and see what we can come up with from a funding perspective. So we have started working with a municipal advisor. He's literally a municipal lending expert through the Special District Association of Oregon, SDAO. They're one of our kind of umbrella organizations. They serve all special districts. And since we met last, our credit has actually been approved by a lender, a bank, for a municipal loan with the following terms and conditions. The approval amount is up to $2 million. We wanted to go large, knowing that we could dial that back and only borrow what we need. Part of that, how much we take, will depend upon this conversation today. The interest rate is actually pretty fantastic, 4.99%. The term is 10 years, but we were able to secure a no early payoff penalty. So that gives us a lot of flexibility. If we wanted to pay it off in 5 years, that would be great. We could certainly do that. The security, I remember Commissioner Olson had a question about collateral. This would be a full faith and credit obligation pursuant to this ORS standard or statute, basically being this is similar to the FF&C obligation we took as part of our GO bond back in 2020. Basically, it allows us to put up our district's revenue as collateral effectively. But the source of repayment is a critical factor here. When working with the lender, our advisor communicated the possibility, we hope likelihood of a TLT allocation with the county, some kind of an agreement. So taking into consideration revenue from an intergovernmental agreement, an IGA or similar document with the county, and the district's operating revenue is basically the source of repayment for this loan. So we've mapped out a few scenarios here. You see A, B, C, D. These are just what it means to the district if we take out a loan and try to pay it off in 5 years. So at a $500,000 loan, you're looking at $115,500 per year for 5 years. $1 million loan would be $231,000. Remember that number for the next slide. And then if we wanted to keep going all the way out to $2 million, this just represents what the estimated payments are. I say estimate just because, we have to go through the actual closing of the loan and all the fees and everything else. But this is pretty accurate estimates for that. So we're very excited to have this as a possibility. One reminder I want to bring up is that we already have an FF&C obligation from our GO bond back in 2020. We're paying close to $200,000 a year on that annually. And that was planned as part of the early pool project before the inflation went away or went very high. The next slide, our last slide, gets into possible allocation scenarios. This is another part of our homework to go and think about, and getting the confirmation of our credit being approved from the lender gives us confidence that we can come to an agreement today, because we will be able to ideally in early January close on that. that loan amount. So as a reminder, NCRD secured a municipal loan of up to $2 million to match the annual TLT fund allocations from the county. Our latest cost updates from November 14th confirm a $1.7 million total cost for phase 3, wherein the aquatic center will be completed and ready for handover and commissioning. And to maintain our schedule and retain contractors, we're working on a means to obtain proof of funds of $1.7 million by December 16th, right around the corner. So we put together a few scenarios. The first option, I believe this was the first option Commissioner Olson suggested at the board briefing. It's a total allocation of $1 million, which is extremely generous, $500,000 up front, and then 5 annual installments of $100,000, total $1 million. Option 2, I believe Commissioner Bell had suggested this as something that we could look into. That's a $1.5 million total allocation, even more generous. This is a $500,000 cash allocation up front that allows us to get going with phase 3 while we secure the loan to get through the project. And of course, in this situation, we would still be a few $100,000 short, which we would have to go to the mattresses, as they say in mafia movies. I don't know what I'm saying. Sorry. We did decide to look at a third option, and clearly you could look at options between 1 million and 1.5 million total. That's pretty easy math. We took the liberty of pushing a bit further, and option 3 is really enticing to us for a few different reasons. One is that the annual allocations increase a little bit, $230,000 a year. That helps cover the principal and interest on a $1 million loan. The total allocation ends up being $1.7 million if we increase the cash by $50,000. We feel confident that this option would allow us to move forward with phase 3 of our project, and then allow us to focus on funding other fundraising options, including a top-off grant we had mentioned before, to finalize the entire project. We humbly request the commissioners discuss and maybe vote in favor of option 3. But again, all of these options are extremely generous, and we have commitment from a municipal lender to basically back any annual allocation option that you're willing to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing all of this work in a very short period of time. Yeah, this is a lot of work. And I'd like to invite my fellow commissioners to respond.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, first of all, I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to give you high marks for everything you have done, simply because you're one way or another, you're going to pull off a major project that's going to change what happens in parts of Tillamook County. And the only other facility that's remotely close to this is the YMCA that I can think of, and that's operates under different circumstances and all, but there's not a lot of opportunities, assuming you don't want to go in the ocean and take a swim, which is not everybody's preference. But what you have done and brought the community together and is really quite remarkable. Now, having said that, I've gone through the options again. I checked the math of the 4.9 and all that, and you're off by a couple $100, but we won't go there today.
I did put the word estimate. I get out of jail free card.
So I'm going to stay where I was before, and I'm going to tell you why. I would vote in favor of advancing $500,000 in cash immediately as soon as it can get through the county system from the TLT funds, and then some kind of a letter of at least if not a commitment, a letter of intent to fund an additional $100,000 for each of the next 5 years, which you could more or less take to the bank, although you never say never. Something could change in year 2 or 3, and I suppose a budget committee at that point could do something, but it would go on the record as the intent of this board at this time. And so that brings it up to $1 million. And I want to tell you the reasons why. Number one, I'm a little bit uncomfortable about handing out more than $1 million without a process. Not that the county hasn't done it before, and I'm thinking of the Coanda Corridor project and perhaps others. But we didn't solicit requests or publish a notice that we were going to do this. You came to us, which is perfectly appropriate. But I can think of, just off the top of my head, 3 or 4 projects pending, and I'll bet if we published a request for interest of some sort, we'd get a dozen or more of ranging from 50,000 maybe to $1 million, who knows? So without that process, and I always fall back to what I've learned many, many years ago, government is process oriented by design. We don't have kings and dictators, and we go through a process and we involve the public, and we haven't quite done that here as much as I think we should. So I would support $1 million, but it would happen 500,000 up front, then 100, 100, 100, 100. And that would depend, I guess, with the usual variables. If for some reason the money wasn't there, couldn't be allocated. But I think that's a fairly safe bet, given that our TLT revenues now are in the $8 million range. So this is not a stretch. The other thing that I think about, and I don't know how true this is, that this money is designed under state law for tourism use, promotion, the enhancement of current facilities or new facilities and all. And this does that, but I'm not sure it does it to the extent of some other projects. And I don't know that because we haven't seen some of the other projects. And the reason I say that is I think, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but and I may have asked this before, the majority of your users, I think, are your residents and part-time residents. I don't know that this is an attractor for somebody to come over from Boise, Idaho to swim in the pool.
I tend to agree that I don't know that somebody would find this pool and want to come from Boise, Idaho, unless they're really into old, amazing pools. However, I've had direct experience throughout the summer, et cetera. Our open swim program, people that come here to vacation, they find out that there's a pool and their kids can get great exercise for several hours every single day. People come into our community to use that resource, and then they might be hungry, and now they're shopping in downtown Nehalem or Manzanita, et cetera. And then that's just looking at the aquatic center. You then have the entire scope of programming the district offers. There's people that I think, I might get it wrong, I think it was 20 to 30% of all of the people that come to see Riverbend players come from out of the district, and that's a direct tourism related item. People drive from all over to play pickleball for free on our courts. So I would say that with any Parks and Rec facility, although it may not be the destination, it is absolutely a service that people, when they go on vacation, would expect, and that they enjoy being able to use when they come to our town. I haven't gotten this formalized in a letter, but a friend of mine owns a boutique real estate agency in Manzanita, and she stated matter-of-factly that when clients come wondering if they should purchase property in Clatsop County, maybe Cannon Beach, or down in Tillamook County, having the proximity of a fitness center and an aquatic center right over the hill in Nehalem with outdoor recreational options as well is absolutely a draw for her clients. So I would say that we absolutely are a tourism-related facility, although it isn't like Disney World where people want to come just for our pool.
Well, thank you again for that. And I know we've gone down that path a little before, and I agree with that, because that's why I'm willing to sign on for $1 million, because it does all of that. I'm just saying that the larger amount, I wonder if it meets the spirit and intent of the law under which we all are obligated to go forward on this subject. So I'll stick with $1 million, and knowing what I know about all of you now, I just don't see you having a problem. You pulled off a semi-miracle here, and I know it's another 600 or 800,000. 700 is your current number additional, but I don't think you'll have a problem doing that. But for me, that's the right balance, and I'll just leave it at that, and perhaps my colleagues have other ideas. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scar.
Thank you. Thank you. I echo Commissioner Olson's thanks on the work that you've done. It really helps me feel more comfortable putting forward an allocation, knowing that you actually do have the loan underway, that you actually do know how much you can borrow, that we're not allocating money on a wing and a prayer that you might. So that was really important to me that you actually knew what was possible before we put money into the pot. So I really do appreciate that work. And I know that it's not easy work to get done in a short time, but I appreciate that you have, because that for me makes a really big difference. I have two questions that I just want to clarify. The total cost of this project is how much again?
Total from the beginning,
Beginning all the way through.
I don't know that slide on me. Is it $16 million approximately?
16.5 million.
Thank you.
Yeah.
15.1 stuck in my head and I'm like, that was the first arrow of where you are now, right? So then the 16.5 is the total. So what you're asking us for in that 1.7 is less 10 to 11-ish% of the project, right?
Correct.
And then my last question is on the top off grant.
Mhm.
Is that in that 15.1 million you've already raised, or is that not accounted in there because you only get it when you open the pool?
I believe when we presented that information, that top-off grant wasn't secured yet. And it is definitely, we actually have a meeting with that foundation scheduled for Monday, the 16th to review it. But basically, we've been reviewing with our consultant the documentation, and that is a top-off. It's a last $500,000. So the majority of that would kick in during phase 4. Depending upon how this goes today with the allocations from the county. And then we would need to get some of the estimates would need to turn into real quotes to actually know exactly how many dollars and for what pieces of equipment they would be for. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it was not included in the previous fundraising amount. And that would effectively, it's unlikely that money would be available for phase 3, but this is a conversation we need to have with that foundation.
Okay.
And we need to really, I believe, get more accurate and clear on the total cost to open the doors and some of the remaining, I call them non-essentials in the presentation because you literally can't open the doors without having bleachers and acoustic panels, but you don't really want to. And so I think sharpening our pencils to figure out after phase 3, those phase 4 items, what the total cost is, that allows us to understand exactly when we're at the last 500. And that's when that money would kick in.
Okay, thank you. That was part of my, is the 1.5 versus the 1.7. If there is a $500,000 top off grant that is coming and you needed 300,000 of that to commission and open the pool, is there 200,000 that can go into this to make it a 1.5 from the county, still meeting the spirit and desire to just get the pool open? So that was that sort of balance for me. And so what I think I just heard you say is maybe maybe that would work and maybe it wouldn't,
Yeah,
because you don't have those final details yet, nor the final
Yeah,
conversation.
it's really the uncertainty around, I mean, hopefully there's, this isn't a wood table, but I'll knock on it anyway. Hopefully there's no change orders during phase 3 that blow through our contingency. So hopefully everything goes to plan from a cost and schedule point of view in that regard. And it's really the lack of certainty we have around those phase 4 costs that drives the uncertainty. And I appreciate that might be a little off-putting or frustrating, but I feel the same way. We just unfortunately don't have an army of project managers who just are quoting and negotiating constantly.
No, I totally get that. So I've spoken before about lack of process, and I still feel that. I feel that as a county, to echo Commissioner Olson's point, we haven't done what we ideally would have done in this process before we think about allocating 1.5 or $1.7 million. That said, you all made a really good, I'm going to say, argument that sat well with me, which was, if someone else is at the place where you are and ready to come in and say, we've raised $15 million from our own community, we have used every resource that's available to us, including bonds through a bond measure through our voters, has raised, I believe it was $1.6 million in individual donations. I have already committed everything you possibly can, and have a project at the level of readiness that you do. Please come talk to us. I have talked to a number of folks who have significant and sizable projects in the community as well, but they're nowhere near there. They're at the, we would like to get started phase, which is very different than where you are. And even at 1.7 million, you are asking us for 11, 12% of your project. to Commissioner Olson's point about visitors versus folks who live here full time, pretty sure you could probably find that 10% of your visitors or 10% of your folks are visitors or 12%. And I think this does meet the spirit of the transient lodging tax, which is how do we provide tourism related facilities that also serve our residents so that this partnership in our community of these funds raised really does show up in the best possible way. And I do think that your project does that. So I'm more comfortable at 1.5 than I am at 1.7. I hear what you're saying about the uncertainties with that. So I'm open to continued conversation. I'm open to hearing from my colleagues. I love to come into these conversations and be able to share with one another before we make a solid decision. So I am not a solid decision on how much. I am a solid decision on our contribution being a part of what makes this project possible. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. I thank you again for all the work that you've done, you know, and it's really stressful. I appreciate the fact that you're here now for the third time and it's fourth time. Thank you. It's difficult to do what you're doing. It's stressful and it's a huge benefit to the community and to visitors, but to the community and an investment in the life, health, and safety of the community. And I'm glad Melody's hanging around for this conversation because as you said, Adventist Health has made a significant contribution because this is an investment in the health and the safety of the community.
That's right.
And I'm firm on 1.5. I'm open to 1.7 because I'd like to get this done. I'd like to be to be able to say to you, yes, this is an excellent use of these funds. It's an excellent project. It's broadly supported by the community. It's financially supported by the community. It's more than shovel ready. You know, it's almost finish ready.
Mhm.
And we'd like to get it done. I'm listening to my fellow commissioners and I agree with the idea of process in the sense that there are indeed other projects in the community, and I've heard from a couple of them, and Commissioner Scar is right. They're not even close to shovel ready. They're in the beginning, they're in the planning phases, which is great, but they're not where you are. And they also don't have the deadline that you have, which is December 12th. And I think I really appreciated your first slide because your first slide that showed us that the North County Recreation District is 25% of Tillamook County in total. And so it is a reasonable investment. 1.7 is a reasonable investment for us to make in 25% of the county. And when I think about the process question, you know, we like to do a process because we like to hear from the community, but also we're not limited to that. We have the power, we have the ability to make decisions outside of a process. And a good example of that is when we bought the Jensen property in Pacific City. That was outside of a public process. It became available. There was a limited timeline. We thought it was important. We invested, I think, 5 or 6 million. I don't remember exactly. To buy it?
2.6, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. So 2.6. So we invested that money because it was an opportunity and it was timely and it was important. And that was outside of a process and we felt good about it. And I will feel good about doing this outside of a process because it's an opportunity to invest in our county and it's timely, it's important, and will nearly, you know, to be able to get the project through phase 3, I feel great about that. So I think this is a wonderful project. And I think looking at the amounts, if we chose option 3, 550 upfront and 230 for 5 years, there are other facilities that we're investing 250 a year in, and granted, we own those, But still, that there's a precedent for it. So, so I'm in support of 1.7, and if we get there, I think that's great. And if we don't, I'm in support of 1.5. So I'd like to make a motion for 1.7 if I may.
You may.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I move that we award the North County Recreation District a project award of 1.7 million total, 550,000 in cash and 230,000 annually for 5 years.
I would second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think the further discussion I would add is just a reminder to anybody watching that this is transient lodging tax.
Right.
This is not general fund money.
Correct.
The county does not have, our county does not have the benefit of having general fund money to provide to worthy community projects. It is one of the things that we see in other counties who have different tax rates and who are able to reach out beyond basic government function and help their community in other ways. Tillamook County doesn't have that benefit at our tax rate. So that is why we have a transient lodging tax to begin with, right? Is to help to augment in our community what our basic property taxes do not. 30% of that automatically goes to roads for the voters, and the other 70% is for other augmentations to our community. And we always do look for that, which supports our visitors and our residents together, which this project does. So I think just that reminder, and I think I would speak to process. The other piece is for anyone who is reading the Headlight Herald, there was an article about this in the paper. It has not been done in a vacuum in the dark without any public knowledge. And I don't see anyone here today who wishes to speak against this. So it is not done in a secret place. It's been done in the eye of the public as well. So, I mean, I do think that as government, we are meeting our mandates to support our community, to do so in a public setting, and to serve our residents, and in this case, with our visitors.
Agree. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Well, I can't disagree with my colleagues. They're saying the right things. And what I said early on, I absolutely support what you've done and what you're doing and how this is going to play out. I will vote no on this particular motion only because I still believe the process is to hand out more than $1 million is not necessarily the best public policy we can do. But again, I'll go back on the record and say what you're doing is absolutely a wonderful project, and it got there through the efforts of all of you and your entire community, and the obligation financially through a bond, and you did all the right things, and you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, all of that. I'm just a bit uncomfortable giving out over $1 million without having or requesting or encouraging some input, and I believe what you heard is correct. There's been publicity, and certainly these meetings are open. Anybody could come in here and tell us, what's on their mind, and sometimes they do, but not necessarily on this one. So I'm a little uncomfortable with that. But if the motion passes, and it appears it will, I am in support philosophically with what you've done. I'm just uncomfortable with the process.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Thank you.
Oh,
Commissioner.
you need to say opposed for the record.
Oh, any opposed?
Yes, I am opposed on the record in support of the project, but opposed to the particular financing matters brought before us.
Thank you.
Can I ask one? Thank you. Holy cow. I did not think it would go that way. So thank you so much. This is, I can see the weight coming off of our shoulders. So thank you. The next steps, we would request some kind of IGA or a commitment for the annual allocation. So I just would love to not have that lingering in the back of our minds that, oh, next year it might not come to fruition. And I believe the lender would be a bit more satisfied with that as well. Is that something we should work with chief staff on?
So that was gonna be one of my questions about the process and the timing. We typically provide this by an agreement, even for the 500,000. So to clarify what you've just approved, I would move forward with an intergovernmental agreement, a 6-year agreement with 550 now and then 230 next fiscal year. Is that, when is the 5-year start?
Good question.
Well, I mean, that,
And then,
just from our point of view, it would be really helpful if we can somehow align that 230 with this would be an annual payback scenario. And so that's something where we would work with our lender to figure out when those dates are. I don't know if, or I mean, we'll do whatever you guys are comfortable with. But that just from our perspective, I think that would be a helpful alignment. If that makes sense.
This-
yeah, I'm just trying to think of ease. I think for ease, it would be ideal to have one agreement that says 550 now, but when does in your mind, when does the 230 start? Is it in this fiscal year or future years? And maybe it depends on your
My
timing.
expectation would be future years. I'm thinking of a lender, you are going to sign your lending paperwork theoretically sometime between now and probably January, February, based on how fast your bank moves, which means they're going to front you that money starting in January, February, however fast they move. And it would be a year from then that you would be needing to make that payback.
Correct.
So my thought would be that it would be in next fiscal year. And perhaps it would be a December 31 or whatever. I mean, what works for us, Rachel, in terms of,
I
does it
think,
matter?
yeah, I think the date is, the specific date is less concerning of me, of just more generally. So if I could do a 6-year agreement, starting as soon as we can prepare the agreement, with 550 now and then 230 beginning next fiscal year. And all it needs to say is next fiscal year. And if you ask for July 1 or February of 26,
Yeah.
that there's a lot of discretion.
We'll just call December 4th Giving Wednesday.
There you go.
And so the board's motion and approval of this is sufficient to get you what you need, because preparing the IGA is going to take a little bit of time.
It should,
Yes.
I think it should
Yeah.
suffice, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have some idea how long that IGA might take?
I would say with the board meetings, maybe before, so we don't have a board meeting the 25th because of Christmas, or January 1st. Getting this prepared through legal and signed by you to be posted by the 13th for the last board meeting of the year, maybe a little ambitious. So I would say December 18th at the earliest, and then January 7th or 8th at the latest.
I'm assuming, is it a correct assumption that the first allocation of 550 would occur after that time, after that?
Yep, and so there would be,
I mean,
I could run the voucher that processes the payment concurrently the week that the board signs it, and then the check would go out the following week. So it's,
be super awesome if the 18th worked, just because that gives us the money up front to kick off phase 3, which is supposed to start early January. But I think that would be our strong preference, and I'll drive down here and camp out wait for the doors to open to sign documents if need be. But we understand.
I think it's more of our process. I know you're ready to sign, but yeah, we just have a little time to go through.
Slowly, as I'm prone to say. So we'll spin them as fast as we can.
Well, I think with a transcript of this meeting, or I don't know if it's possible to get just a memo, even, from chief of staff to reiterate what's agreed upon, we could take that to the bank. I've always wanted to say that, we could take that.
Is that possible, Rachel?
If you would like me to do that, I'll prepare that.
I think it would be great for them to have something, a document to take to the bank.
Yeah, understanding that ideally that could happen earlier than our next board meeting, which is next Thursday. Maybe that could come out, even if it's just an email or some document that is in parallel while the IGA is being prepared.
That's great.
I think that might satisfy all the people.
Right. Anything else?
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you for your work. You're welcome. Thank you for your work. I look forward to swimming. I don't know that I want to be the first one. I don't think I want a camera anywhere nearby, but we'll look forward to swimming in the pool.
We have that commissioner's first swim, so we're planning that.
It's Commissioner Bell as a North County resident. I think she'll be ready to take that dive.
And Commissioner Olson, maybe we could arrange one of those fly fishing experiments with the little Velcro fish in the pool. I know you're more of a fisherman than a swimmer.
I didn't think you were gonna let me in at all.
Absolutely. You're coming too.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
You're yelling in the hallway, so-
Yeah, I feel like we should recess for hugs.
Yes.
Can I shake your hands?
Oh, please, please.
Please. Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You too.
Thank you guys. Thank you for all you've done.
You're welcome. Okay. Item 9. Sarah, this will be a hard act to follow. Consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of a building official for Tillamook County. Sarah Absher, Director of Community Development. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. That was great to watch. What a great morning to get to do something like that. Before you for signature is a board order to reappoint me as the county building official. We are going through a period of transition again. Brian Blaylock, who has served in that position this last year and was with the department for roughly 2.5 years, has had an opportunity to return to his former employer in a new leadership position that gives him incredible professional opportunity. And so we are sad to see him go, but we wish him well. In the meantime, I'm happy to formally step back into that role as we transition and start recruiting again. So the State of Oregon Building Codes Division requires formal appointment of this position. I have already made them aware that I am stepping back in. And so the last piece of that is signature of the order, if that is a position that you would like me to formally serve in again.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Sarah. So I don't know if people understand and appreciate what a big, I'm going to say a big deal this is for our county. Building officials are a required position in the county. You can't just say, well, we'll advertise for one and see if we can find one and just run without one in the meantime. That actually is not allowable. And in the event that you are not able to identify a local building official, if I'm not mistaken, and Sarah, you can correct me, the state becomes the de facto building official and responsible for our building program.
That's right.
And what is really important for our development and our contractors and everyone who's working here locally is to have somebody in our shop and to make sure that our decisions remain locally based and not based on the state building official. And Sarah's taken, I'm going to say, her own time to become a certified building official 2 years ago when we first found ourselves moving into this position, at the time when the state was also changing the rules to say you must absolutely have one of these in your county. And she, I mean, it was not a small task to become a certified building official with coursework and exams and so forth. So appreciate that she's done that. Appreciate that we are able to maintain local control of our building program in order to continue to have that vital piece of our economy churning and not waiting for responses from the state. So I guess I just want to make sure people understand that this is a big responsibility that Sarah has taken on and is stepping back into to keep us churning. So my thanks are just immense for her willingness to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Well, thank you. Well, it's great to have a co-pilot who can fly the plane, I guess. if you need it, or maybe a better example would be if you're the president of a hospital and your head surgeon is out of town, the president of the hospital can go down and take out your appendix, something like that. So that's what you have to go to medical school now, Sarah, after that. I think it's great, and we've known for some time that she does have the proper credentials, and I think you're quite right. Counties are required to have this person either on staff or under some kind of contract, and otherwise things tend to grind to a halt, and nobody wants that, as evidenced in our last action with FEMA. So absolutely let her step up. I'm assuming you'll recruit or go forward to actually backfill a position. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. No, let's get it done.
Thank you. I agree. And I thank you, Sarah. I was thinking back to, I think it was a couple of years ago, you started going to night school to get the education, take the classes and pass the test to be able to do this. It was a huge investment of your time. It was a huge sacrifice. It was on top of an already very large job. And I'm grateful, you've already done that work, and I'm sorry that you have to step back into the role of building official, but I'm grateful that you can. And I agree with my colleague here that it could be potentially disastrous for construction in Tillamook County if the state took over the program. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
We're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of Order 24-069 in the matter of the appointment of a building official for Tillamook County, I move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, commissioners. And I'll keep you posted on the recruitment process.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Item 10 is consideration of a tax deed in favor of William Lemire for tax foreclosed county-owned property previously offered at the February 13th, 2023 land sale auction, parcel 11, township 4 south, range 9 west, section 30A, tax lot 4100. With us, we have Isabel Gilda, executive assistant. Good morning.
Thank you, Commissioners. Madam Chair, so this is the tax deed for foreclosed property that was sold during the 2023 land sale auction in February, and this was sold to Mr. Lemire. Mr. Lemire entered into a land sale installment contract, and he has paid it off in full early, which is usually 5 years, and it's been 2 years. And the treasurer has verified full payment has been processed. This is the size of the parcel is 1.04 acres, and it's located near Hebo. And the tax deed before you today will convey that property to Mr. Lemire. So that's for your consideration.
Wonderful. Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. No real questions. The process works. There's an opportunity for buyback or acquiring foreclosed properties, and that's how the system works. It works that way for a long time, and so absolutely, let's go on the record and get it done.
Agreed. I think this is the last one we were able to sell before Tyler V. Hennepin at the Supreme Court changed that process for us. So it's great to wrap this one up, and we look forward to hopefully getting back into the business of getting properties out to people and on the tax roll in the future.
Terrific. Congratulations to Mr. Lemire. And
Yeah, he's very happy.
yeah, I think it's terrific. We're ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of a tax deed in favor of William Lemire for tax foreclosed county-owned property previously offered at the February 13th, 2023 land sale auction, parcel 11, township 4 south, range 9 west, section 30A, tax lot number 4100. I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Isabel.
I have the next one too.
Okay. Item 11 is consideration of an order in the matter of a notice of intent to award a contract for prevailing wage rate contract for construction for courthouse interior lighting upgrade. Isabel.
So on October 30th this year, we issued a call for bids for the courthouse interior lighting upgrade project. This has been paid out of ARPA funding. We received 2 bids, 2 timely responses, And the project essentially is replacing all of the lighting in the courthouse. Kevin gave me a little list of exactly what we're replacing. We're going to remove all the ballasts and replace all tombstone connectors. I'm not sure what tombstone connectors are. Replace all damaged and missing diffusers. Replace all fixtures in the areas with false ceilings with new LED fixtures. So everything I believe is being transferred over to LED. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a state law that they're not making them anymore, and
Right.
we're at the point where we're not going to be able to get replacement parts for our current fixtures. And we've been wanting to do this for a while. We've gone out to bid a couple of different times, had contractors on board, yeah, and it hasn't come to fruition. So I'm ecstatic that this is coming to fruition just in time to use the ARPA money.
Great.
So our contract is Jimco Electrical Contracting, and the bid was for $88,721 for the entire project. And with that, we'll have a contract for your consideration next week. We just have to do the notice of intent to award the contract first, and then the contract comes after that.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioners, questions? comments?
You mentioned, I think, LED, some of this is the LED technology now. And did the county talk to Tillamook PUD
We did.
subsidies? So that I know BPA at one time had significant resources for change out to this type of.
Yeah, they did a walkthrough and an inventory of each fixture ahead of time.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Has to get her done.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of a notice of intent to award, Board Order 24-070, to award a contract for prevailing wage rate contract for construction of courthouse interior lighting upgrade. And
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. Okay, colleagues, board concerns?
Negative, nothing as of the moment. We do have a work session, I believe, this afternoon. Thank you.
Nothing concerns? Okay. I will read the announcements and then we'll go into executive session. The commissioners will hold a board briefing today, Wednesday, December 4th, 2024 at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly commissioner updates. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 at the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue in Tillamook. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. The commissioners will attend an Oregon Coastal Zone Management meeting on Friday, December 6, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. The meeting will be held at 2120 Southeast Marine Science Drive in Newport. The commissioners will attend part 1 of a local public safety workshop by Portland State University on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 at 10 a.m. The commissioners will attend part 2 of this workshop on Thursday, December 12th at 12:30 p.m. The commissioners will attend part 3 of this workshop on Tuesday, December 17th at 12:30 p.m. The workshop segments will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse, Tillamook. If anybody's interested, that's related to the local Public Safety Coordinating Council. It's a training for LIPSC. The commissioners will attend a Budget Committee meeting on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024 at 1 p.m. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue, teleconference number 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. And with that, we will move into executive session under ORS
92-660-2H to consult with counsel about litigation that's pending or threatened.
Thank you. Okay, it's 10:15. Do we need to 5